Football then and now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us.
This is Football Then and Now, episode 59. We have got a Europa League 2025 preview for tomorrow. We have got a Spurs fan and a Man United fan in the wings. But Chris, before we hit the preview, you wanted to talk about Abdoulaye Doucouré. He is going, it's official, he will be leaving at the end of the season. So yeah, just briefly before we hit the preview of the final, mate, just your thoughts with Doucouré going. I think we saw it coming, didn't we?
Yeah, well, I had Jim on last Monday. We were talking about players that, we think and we felt that probably should leave. And we felt Doucouré probably would be one of them. And mainly because obviously from that Ben Foster podcast he was on, he wasn't going to drop from 120 grand. And as I do, is we're trying to cut our wage budget, aren't we? And he wanted more effectively because of the hard work. He's done for us over the last 18 months, which that is granted. And he has put in, some good shifts. He's scored some vital goals. The one against Bournemouth, I think, will be etched into our memories. And we are extremely thankful for Doucouré, for what he's done, and that goal especially. It's sad to see him go. Well, I wish we could have had some sort of terms with him where, he would cut the wages, but I'd imagine he's going to Saudi. Al Shabab is what I'm hearing, Stu, which I imagine he's going to get, wealth for life, isn't he, over there? And I know his family live in Saudi anyway. So, at 32 years of age, he's done it all in the Prem, minus winning cups, but, he's been prominent with Watford to Everton, hasn't he? So, good luck to him. And, like I said, we won't forget, the goal against Bournemouth because that was vital in our history.
Absolutely. He moves on. Again, it's a case of cutting down the wage bill, isn't it, as well? Yeah. We overplayed. It wasn't his fault that he was getting paid what he was getting paid. It was the previous regime. They were throwing wages around willy-nilly. Moyes, as you said last week, you alluded to it, he wants younger players in. He's always been about that. When players hit a shelf life, it's time to go under him. Although he has played a lot of football under Moyes, when you've had Charlie Alcaraz on the bench a lot as well. So although they probably knew he was going weeks and weeks ago, he has played him, hasn't he, to be fair? He's played a lot of games under Moyes.
I think between, obviously Lampard wasn't keen on him, but you saw the difference he made under Dyche when Dyche was manager, and and under David Moyes. They all seem to like that. He was an old school sort of engine, wasn't he? An engine in midfield. He couldn't pass the ball. We all knew that, but he had legs. He could make a tackle every now and again, and he scored goals. He got in the right positions at the right time, and that was the kind of player he was. But you knew that he had an engine. And you could sort of use that, and like I said, it's sad to see him go because I think he would have been a good, off the bench play for us. But I don't imagine he'd want to be that now anyway. But yeah, like I said, everyone moves on. He's going to get a lot more money there in Saudi, isn't he? So good luck to him.
All the best, Abdoulaye Doucouré. If it is Saudi, of course, which is looking highly likely. Now we move on ahead to tomorrow evening's Europa League Final. We have got John Scott returning. He's back after his last appearance on the show in March. Big Spurs fan. Hello, John.
How you doing, mate? All right.
All good. And we've got Ryan Crooks, Man United fan, first-time guest on the show. Thank you for coming on, Ryan, as well. So we've got Spurs versus United this evening on here. A big preview. How are you, Ryan?
Yeah, pleasure to be here, Stu. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to the game and to, having a chat with you guys tonight.
John, you are travelling out there later on this evening. So just your thoughts before heading out to Bilbao for the final, mate.
Yeah. I should say the morning. I'm in a hotel tonight, but mate, my thoughts. Well, my thoughts, Stu, is that I haven't seen a cup for Tottenham for 17 years. I've been starved of it with this club. The last manager to do so was one day Ramos, of all people, and then he left us into relegation. Not as bad as this season, though. I should point that out. So it's been a dreadful season. I can't beat around that bush, Stu. It's been terrible. Our form in the league has just been absolutely horrendous. I know we've had loads of injuries, but even when we've had a good amount of players back, we've still been dreadful for large parts of this season. But we find ourselves in a cup final, which is just the most bizarre thing. And before I let you move on, Stu, the fact is, last season this is the stupid maths of it, by the way. This is the ridiculous thing. Last season we finished 5th. We're in the Europa Cup, trophyless as usual. This season we're 17th with the possibility of getting into the Champions League and finally winning a trophy. That's the craziness of the maths here that I should point out.
Amazing. Safe travels, of course. We'll say this before you go this evening, but yeah, all the best and just fantastic that you're going to be there. We've seen United over there already, obviously, a fantastic stadium. And yeah, I've seen some of the build-up today on Sky Sports News with some of the Tottenham podcasters and that. It looks amazing. Now, Ryan, we've got to get a bit of balance on here, you being the United fan, of course. So your thoughts ahead of tomorrow evening's game. And yeah, just how you feel it'll pan out.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Stu. When I was listening to what John just said, I can almost mirror it. Like, the season has been awful. We're very low in the league. We've got inconsistency crazy. Like, some games we look like we can turn up and beat anyone. Other days we look like we could play in a championship. And the reality is, as John was alluding to, two teams that have had awful Premier League seasons, whether or not Arsene Wenger likes it or not, could end up in the Champions League. It's the rules. It's Europa League rules. You win the Europa League, you play Champions League. I don't think either team is particularly well prepped to play Champions League right now. However, with a decent transfer window, Matthias Cunha, etc., I'd like to think we'd put in a bit more of a show if we managed to get there.
Absolutely. Chris, what are your thoughts leading into the game? We're neutral, of course. How do you think it's going to go? We've had
First of all, I want to say,
both teams there. How do you feel it'll go?
How are 2 clubs below us getting in the Champions League? Come on now. Listen, at the end of the day, it's a weird season. And before we get into the final, it's weird seeing, Tottenham and Man United, at the bottom of the, by the bottom of the league, lower than us, and considering how bad we've been. And you guys talk about being trophyless. You try and support Everton and not having a trophy since '95. And, Stuart held that the other week. And we would love it, to be in your position. Maybe not 17th, John. I'm sick of seeing that position as it is. But, regardless of going to the final for you two, I think this is a good breakout for you. As you've both alluded to, you've had bad seasons. But, this could end up on a high for one of yous, leading into the summer. You've got hopefully more money to spend. And obviously Amrin's got a full summer then to get the players he wants in. I don't know, John, if Ange is going to be at Tottenham, depending on obviously the result of this game, considering where you are in the league. And we know how passionate you lot down ourselves. So it's hard to say where you go from there. Does he stay? And then what kind of summer are you going to get from that? But in regards to the game, it'll be interesting. To be honest with you, Ryan, I thought Bilbao would have been too tough for you, and I thought they would have an extra.
I thought it would have been a tougher match. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I thought it would have been a tougher match for sure. Yeah.
I thought they would have more of a go, considering the finals at their football ground, and we know a lot of the teams when the finals at their ground, we say like seven times out of 10, the most of the teams make it. But you completely nullified them, and they've been going really well in La Liga, but you made them look abnormal. And that was a great result for you. And I think you've done a lot better, obviously, in Europa than you've done in the Premier League. And we'll go to John. I think you've had a decent run in Europa League. Obviously, the Premier League itself has not been great. Bodø/Glimt doesn't normally get to the semi-finals. They've always got a good young talent coming through there, but obviously it's a bit too early for them as a team. You seem to get quite far in the cups in Europe, but never seem to get this far. Obviously, Champions League was your last one, and it was a tough one against Liverpool, and it was a dreadful game, to be honest with you. I think Poch made some mistakes there, didn't he? I think he should have played Lucas Moura because he got you there. Harry Kane was injured, wasn't he? And there was, I think the panic stations and excitement probably got in the way of that game. I would like to see from you both, where do you think, and obviously you can answer one after the other, where do you think your best spot on the pitch now is where you're going to get at each other? Either one of you can start.
Go on, John.
Well, it's a good. I'd actually say the only thing I'm slightly more confident about with Tottenham at the moment is when we have Van der Ven and Romero at the back. We're like a bit of a different team. Like when they're properly fit, and the back four will be so crucial in this. I think for us in this game, and actually, the only thing I quite fancy about this game is like Amarin's style and tactic. I think it's good in Europe, but I think it might help Angie's like stubbornness to play the way he does as well, and it might invite us on to play a little bit more forward than we normally do because we've been a little bit. He's definitely more. I would say he's not flying forward. He's not having his wing backs go forward as much these days. But in the games I watched against Man United earlier in the season, I felt like in terms of having that defence sorted, the only player I was really scared of and worried about was Garnacho. When he came on, he caused major problems. But for the most part, I would say our threat probably, Chris, if I'm honest, is probably going to just come from the whole team as one unit. There's no real, we don't really have a Kulusevski. Kulusevski's not going to be there. Maddison's not going to be there. I'm hearing we're going to play a different 10 potentially if Bergvall doesn't start. So I don't know. I'd probably have to say from the wings, hope that Heung-min Son, he came back the other day. He looks decent. But like you mentioned, Chris, about Harry Kane a few years ago, and I was at that final. He should never have played. I don't want to see Son start if he's not 100%. I'd rather him come off the bench and affect the game that way. I don't want to see Daniel Levy upstairs saying he's got to be on the team sheet because of the fan base and everything.
Ryan, what are your thoughts leading into it?
Well, I had a look yesterday actually at the last result when we played Spurs in the league, and obviously we got beat. We got beat 1-0, and we had a bench which had nobody on it over the age of probably 25 except the goalkeeper. We were going through that crisis period where we had so many injuries, and I know Spurs have had loads as well, so I'm not making excuses. But tomorrow we're rumoured to have Euro, Dalot and Xerxes back. I never expected Xerxes back. And I think Xerxes is a major difference maker to Højlund because Højlund will just lose the ball or not hold it properly. Or I don't think Spurs would be very concerned about Højlund playing up front. I think, as John alluded to with Van der Ven and Romero, I think that's more than enough for Højlund. But Xerxes will drop back, control the possession. We need to get more possession because last time we played them, we had less possession. We had, I think, 44%. So we need to keep the ball better. I think with Xerxes, if he gets off the bench or maybe Mason Mount, Bruno, we can definitely keep the ball a bit better. Lenny Yoro is one of my favourite players right now. He's seriously coming into himself this season. In Bilbao, Amarin actually pulled him off to the side and said, play out from the back. You dribble the ball up the pitch. And he was almost playing like balls from the number 10 at some point. So I think if Spurs play that ultra-attacking high line and Lenny Yoro nicks the ball, then there's always a chance to go straight on the counter. United might even start going back to the old sort of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer days here with the fast-paced counters with Ahmad and Garnacho. There's lots of different choices. One thing I will mention, though, is like I said earlier, I think with a European team in this final, I fancied us a lot more than I do with a Premier League team because the intensity difference. John said, obviously, I think Chris said with Bilbao, he thought we'd not be so good, but if you look at the intensity, the pressure on the ball, the time you get on the ball, how they all press as a team, that seems very Premier League based. And that's what we seem to have struggled with a lot this season. Whereas if you're playing a European team, you seem to have more time. Bruno seems to come into his own a lot more. I still fancy Bruno to put out a worldie, by the way. I think he's going to be the one that's going to drive us. If we're going to get a result, it's going to be with Bruno. He just seems to have that final magic. And then I think a big player for us is going to be Casemiro. I know he hasn't been amazing all season, but he's recently hit major form. And I think with the Champions League finals behind him and the experience of dragging teams through finals, he's going to be absolutely vital to us.
100% going into that. Yeah, again, I think, do you know what, Rye, as well? They discredited you going into that second leg, didn't they? Saying that Bilbao had 3 players out. That annoyed me, that. The media made a big thing about it.
But I mean, they'd already been beat, hadn't they? They'd already been beat.
The 2 Williams brothers are out. You know, it's usual media spin to me, that. I felt that was poor.
I do get that, mate. And I'd say I do rate the Williams brothers. I think they're quite decent. They're not as good as the Williams sisters, obviously. But but no, I mean, Anarchy, is it Anarchy, the older one? He's never been special, has he? It's Nico who's really good. And people tarred him with the same brush. Like the Williams brothers, like Anarchy's never been special. He was always kind of now spoken about because Nico Williams has come into being such a talented player. But he again, he's an occasion player. Like I heard about Arsenal looking at him and people are like, I'm not bothered if you bring him in because we shut him down in the first leg. Like he's just an occasion player. He's a bit like Garnacho. 1 minute he'll look amazing, the next minute he'll look flat. So I think he needs a team around him. Everyone was how good he was in the Euros. He had the team that won the Euros around him. So it's like, you know, the way you look at it, like Yamal, for example, who's 5 years younger or whatever, he's a whole different level to Nico Williams. Yeah. So.
Oh no, well put, absolutely. John, we're going to come back to you now, get a bit more Spurs off you as well. Again, he was saying about Lucas Bergvall was Ange tonight. He will not be fit for tomorrow, will he? How do you feel about that? I know you're hot on him as well.
Yeah, like I said, it's a bit of a shame because we're missing the 3 creative gems in the middle and the others are kind of do very similar jobs. Saar, Basuma and Bentancur, very, very similar type duties that they have. And whenever all of them 3 play, we don't do well. I can tell you that much. So I don't want to see that on that team sheet tomorrow. I want one of them out. I did hear rumblings that there was talks of Solanke coming in on that 10 and then put Tell more up front. That wouldn't be a bad idea in my eyes, just because Solanke offers you something different in that position, like holding the ball differently. Otherwise, for most of the games, Solanke's best work is just making runs all over the place. He's quite underrated because you don't see a lot of his efforts, but he is absolutely exhausted anytime I go and watch him. He just puts in so much effort. So yeah, that's a bit of pill there, Stu, with Bergvall for sure. But let me bring on to something else here, Stu, mate. I wanna put this to Ryan actually. Like from my point of view as a Tottenham fan, I want a trophy. I don't care about the Champions League. We're not going to do anything in it next season. We're just going to be making the numbers up. In fact, I'd rather defend the Europa because we've got a chance of winning that. We ain't going to win the Champions League. So if I could, with my hand on heart, if I could say before the game, you know what, Man United, you have your Champions League. Just give us the trophy. I am dying for the trophy. That's my main thing. But Ryan, from your point of view with the Man United fan base, does it feel as important? Because you guys are serial winners all the time. Like I don't really know, where does Europa fit for most Man United fans? Is it a bigger deal, or is it just a convenience that this is a shortcut to the Champions League?
Okay, so it's a really good question, and it's something that we have been thinking about, I think, as fans and people I've been speaking to. Hand on heart, if you had to choose one or the other, I would say Champions League finances is more important this season than the silverware, because we need to invest big players. Having Champions League football as well. For example, I'm hearing tonight, just before we came on here, that Victor Gyökeres has been approached by Man United and has been told to wait to see if we're in the Champions League. And apparently if we are, his preference is to link up with Ruben Amorim. If not, he might go to Arsenal or somewhere else. If we brought in a few players like Victor Gyökeres, Mateus Cunha, Ryan Cherki's been linked from Lyon for like 21 million, which is crazy for his potential on a buyout clause. And then maybe a new goalkeeper, because I mean, let's get into him in a minute, but that's a real concern for me tomorrow. He seems to be addicted to European balls ups, and you know, but 3 or 4 good players that will come in who demand Champions League football. Yeah, Champions League for Man United is absolutely essential. Don't get me wrong, winning silverware is always amazing, but I totally understand from a Spurs point of view why the trophy probably at this stage means more than the Champions League. Because I don't think you're in crippling debt like we are. So we need to win we need the extra cash, because that way Ruben gets his signings, he gets a full pre-season, and we get to really see what Ruben Amorim's about. Because I think he could be about a lot. I think he's a really good potential guy. I back him all the way at the moment. I back him if he loses the final. I don't think that's on him. I think that's on the board 100% for the position they've left him in. Come in in November. Don't wait till the end of the season. Like he actually publicly said, I want to wait till the summer. Come in ready for the January window. We'll help you there. And all they gave him was Dorgu, who, don't get me wrong, Dorgu is okay, but he's a young left back. He's not proven yet. He's 23 or whatever he is. He's not the finished article. He wanted the PSG guy, Nuno Mendes, he wanted. And obviously he's amazing. That was impossible at this stage. He didn't want to go to a club in such a bad place. So, yeah, for me, let's restructure, let's rebuild. Luckily, the win comes with a trophy anyway. But, I mean, if I had to pick, I would pick Champions League, 100%. And that's a great question.
Chris, I'm going to put you back in, mate.
Sorry, I wanted to train my thought then. For you both, this is do or die for you this season. I'll obviously just sort of step ahead of the game now, so just say the game's finished and whoever's won it. And we'd obviously then, Ryan, you're talking about the summer. I want to get to that. What do you see? Either manager. I know this is a hard one for you, John, because you don't know if Andrew's going to be there, but just say he is. Is there a particular player? Obviously, I know Cunha's obviously rumoured, and Sky have saying that the transfer fees.
That's practically done from what I hear.
Yeah,
I think it'll be announced officially either as a bonus on winning or as a spin cycle. Look, don't matter, we lost. We got Cunha. Like the normal Brazonomics. So yeah.
See, but that's an excellent sign. I mean, Stuart was speaking about that last night. The only obviously issue you have with Cunha is his attitude, but
he just needs to calm down a bit, doesn't he?
But he's, I'd say he's youngish. He's not young, but he's still, he's played in the Prem and he knows what it's all about. But going forward, it's like this summer is obviously very pivotal for both of you. Obviously coming off, the season you've had, and like I say, you're not normally down there fighting with us lot down, at the bottom of the leagues, and and really in a dogfight. And obviously you want a better season. So this is going to come down to obviously the money obviously you're going to get to spend. But what is there a particular player minus who obviously Cunha who's coming in? Is there a certain player or a certain position that you guys feel that you need to get that sorted going into the summer, and that's a priority of getting done as early as possible? To look like the looks of Liverpool getting Frimpong in, and it looks like they're getting someone else in as well. I'm hearing is a defender from Bournemouth, I believe.
Kirkes.
Which again is a great sign for Liverpool. But is there anything you guys wish you can get done now, or like I say, is there a position with a certain player you would like to get in?
Absolutely.
Either one, go again first.
Yeah, if I can jump in on this one, absolutely 100% striker. Rasmus Højlund is not good enough. Joshua Zirkzee is not a striker. He's a number 10 in this system. He's very good with the ball at his feet. I love his little flicks and tricks and some of his movement. And I think he's definitely got a place, either if it's off the bench or starting certain games. But Chido Obi, again, a brilliant young prospect, but he's 17 or 18. It's just nowhere near ready for the top level. If you think Manchester United, when we won major honours regularly, let's go to the Champions League, for example, in 99, Cole, York, Sheringham, Solskjaer. Then you've got Tevez, Ronaldo, Rooney, and I think you had someone like Saha probably on the bench. Now you look at today, you've got Rasmus Højlund and a 17-year-old, and Rasmus Højlund is just not good enough. So, me personally, Ryan, Osman, Man United, Gyökeres. They will take Gyökeres if they can get him because of a Ruben Amorim link, and he has scored bucket loads of goals and knows the system. And the system's quite intricate. It's the whole 5 at the back and wing backs getting involved, and the number 10s playing, behind the striker and having to drop back when they have to. Like Kobbie Mainoo plays that position quite well. So, they've got options all across the park now, I think. Maybe another fullback and definitely another goalkeeper. But I think other than that, we are lacking a goal scorer so badly that it has to be Osman, it has to be Gyökeres, someone like that. It can't be Liam Delap. I mean, I keep hearing this. It just can't be Liam Delap. That is Højlund Mark II. That's a young player who's got so much to learn. I'd even take Harry Kane. I'm sure John would love it if that happened, but I'd even take Harry Kane, even though he's older. It's just someone who's going to help us. Like, we need a proven number 9.
Right. How long are you going to keep overpaying for players? It's that thing attached to United that's been there for so many years. Yeah, when it was successful and all the rest of it, you overpaid. When is that going to stop? To go back to Chris's point, Frimpong's release clause for Liverpool, I know it's dirt cheap, but Liverpool don't tend to overpay, do they? They're very frugal in the market. When will that change? When is that going to... You can't keep paying a premium surely just because it's Man United's name.
I mean, looking at the prices I'm hearing for players at the moment that we're linked to, like Ryan Cherky is 21 million. And that's a release clause. That would be smart business for me. He was great in the Lyon game.
Signing that would be as well. I tried to jump in, Ryan, but he's one of the biggest talents in France at the moment. And
is that Cherky?
And I feel like he'd be the bargain of the summer for anybody who activates that clause. He'd be a bargain, and I feel like United, that should be someone. United, Tottenham, Arsenal, any of the top 4, top 6. They've got the money; they should be jumping for.
I think so. I think also when I mentioned obviously the striker and you're saying about big fees and when to stop. I think if you look at Gyökeres's goal scoring record, the fact he's played with Amorim, the fact he knows the system, and the fact they're rumouring around 60 to 65 million euros, that's not expensive for Gyökeres. Like, that's not paying a Man United premium for that level of player. I think Cunha might be paying a bit of a premium, 62.5 million buyout clause, but he's Premier League proven and he's exactly what we need at this moment in time.
Definitely. With Gyökeres as well, he's Champions League proven. If it is that you get into it, he has scored goals in Europe as well. I'm not knocking the Portuguese league, but, domestically, coming into the Prem and trying to do it, it is tough for players, isn't it? But
it is. You never score the goals he scored in there. He scored like 57 in a season or something. He'll never do that in the Premier League.
Yeah, but he played for Coventry as well. Don't forget, he's played. He played I think a couple of games for Brighton before they sold him to Coventry. So it's not like he's not played in the English pyramid before. So you have got a player that's played in both. He's just progressively got better.
I just want to see the Glazers and the board, like, Omar Barada and Jason Wilcox and all the guys brought in. I just want to see them give Amorim his man. Like, Gyökeres is his man. He skilled him up. He made him the best player he can be. He, made him work with that system. He encouraged him. He loves him as a person. Apparently, they've got a great relationship. I mean, if Arsenal or someone like that beats him to his player, he's going to feel so let down by his board. I don't think we can keep doing this with Man United managers. Like, Ten Hag didn't get Frankie de Jong. Like, that was his guy. Like, we've got to start giving the managers who they truly want.
Stu, he's gone. Stu, your mic's on mute, pal.
Transfer targets, John. The Spurs bringing you back in now.
Ryan talks about overpaid and you talk about overpaid. We're underpaying over here, mate, with Daniel Levy. It's the opposite. It's the opposite end of the spectrum. Like, they spent the money in the transfers and everyone looks at that. But at the end of the day, we'll never change in calibre of player until we change our wage structure, quite frankly. Like, it's a big problem at Tottenham, to be honest with you, against the other top 6. And now you've got Aston Villa that look like they're in the process of evolving into that a little bit. So it's kind of worrying in a way. But to be honest with you, transfer-wise, mate, look, at the moment, I wouldn't be surprised if they just get Timo Werner on a permanent deal the way we're going, That's the Tottenham way, these loans, and then we get players in. Probably Tell will be another one if he fancies it. But to be honest, a lot's going to depend on tonight, and it's also going to depend who the manager is. Like, that's the big question, because there's Ange players and then there's everybody else's. And if you're going to play in that Ange system, you need particular types of players. But for anyone else,
we're in the same boat, John. Sorry to jump in, but we're in the exact same boat. You've got a certain manager of a certain formation, and you have to adhere to it.
He doesn't want to budge. Yeah, I mean, Pedro Porro, for instance, he'd be ideal for Man United because he does nothing but and he played for Amorim as well for Sporting for a while. So him and Undogi would actually be the great wing backs that you're looking for in a lot of ways. But when we're doing it with a 2 at the back, it's a little bit more difficult and more worrying, I can tell you. Just gives me no end of heart attacks. But in terms of players, if for me personally, who would I like to see? I would like to see somebody like a Justin Kluivert, an Eze from Crystal Palace that we should have got last season. Romero will be on his way, I guarantee you that. Atletico Madrid will pick him up for some stupid amount of money that he's probably not worth, but Daniel Levy will do his magic there. So we'll end up needing another centre back. And if we're staying with Ange, we need somebody who's good at 100-metre sprint like Van der Ven again, another one from somewhere big.
What about your youth as well? I know you were hot on the youth when we've had John earlier on in the season. Again, stick with the youth, of course, who he has got the core group.
They've got good players, though. I mean, Mikey Moore's going to be good in a couple of years. He's not ready now. But do you know, the player I've really liked this season, I feel really sorry for him because he's been played in so many ridiculous positions, well out of his comfort zone, is Archie Gray. And he's the thing I like about him the most is the way he speaks after games. He's so mature. He's going to be a captain in the long run, I can tell. But he's just got such a good attitude. He never kicks up a stink. He's right back, left back, centre back, anywhere but his natural position for most of the time. But I really rate him, and it's a shame because now a lot of the other players have come back. He's found himself on the outside, a bit like Jed Spence. But I felt like those two, were having a good run of games. So yeah, there's always been good youngsters at Tottenham, Stu. But when you've gone through this many, it only gets you so far, in my opinion. It only gets you so far. You do need these other sprinkle of quality around it. I certainly won't be looking at a striker probably this season, but I think the midfield is probably my main key position, that right in the centre for me.
Definitely. Would Marcus Rashford not be a good...
John, I mentioned him before. I mentioned, and Stu actually said as well, Tottenham might look at him. Cherki, would you look at Cherki from Lyon?
I think they should. If they're not, they definitely should be. But yeah,
21 mil. I mean, it's Levy prices, isn't it?
Yeah, he's probably over there now, not gone to the games. Probably sorting that one out instead for him. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, but like I say, it just depends who the manager is. I think at the moment, if I'm being honest, like I've seen, Daniel Levy's sacked managers for far less. I've seen Jose be sacked 1 week before a finals, and he was only 8th. So the fact that Ange is still there is incredible. I don't know if he's got some sort of hold over Daniel Levy, some sort of blackmail going on. But the fact he's still there and he's going to get to go into the game and play it, I got a feeling that if he wins, he can say to everyone he wins something in his second season, right off into the sunset. We're happy, he's happy, and then I feel like they will bring in a new manager. That's just from what I believe at the moment. I know there'll be a happy period if we did win somehow. I know everyone would be buzzing and they'd be happy, but I think the overall season is it's not enough. And like I say, I've seen managers at Tottenham come and go a lot and for a lot less than where we are now. I can assure you that I've never seen Tottenham this bad. This is worse than Christian Gross.
Come on, John.
Come
on, John. Not Christian Gross. You beat us 2-0 when me and Chris went in 97.
Yeah, that was my first game for Everton. He ruined my first experience.
I remember watching it. Oh God, yeah. from the grasshoppers. Yeah.
Who would you have?
Back Ramin Vega.
Who would you have? Say Ange does go. Who would you have as manager, John, going forward? Who would it be for you? Have you got an idea? Who would you like, maybe? Who would be good? Who could sort it and get them at that table where they belong?
I'll be totally honest with you, Stu. I don't know at this point. I mean, I've seen everything. We've gone Conte and Jose, these serial winners, and I know they said Jose was past it at the time, but then you go and get Conte, who they were supposed to get originally, but Daniel didn't want to pay the money after Nuno went after a few months. They got him, then he's basically shouting about everything. We've gone through Pochettino, project managers. And again, as well as Pochettino did, he still didn't get us over the line. That's what you've got to remember. And I know there is a fondness from a lot of Spurs fans, but I remember how it was at the end, and it was quite toxic to where he got it to in the end, So Harry Redknapp from his fantastic days. I've seen all sorts of different types of managers, but I think at the end of the day, something needs to change upstairs. A real a massive shift with Tottenham. It's not going to be the manager. I don't know if anyone could go in at that club sometimes and work magic. I really don't. I think it's very tough within the confines of these managers. But let me throw one back to Ryan, because you guys were in this situation last season. You won the finals. You had that
Yeah.
feel-good moment. This is what's worrying me a little bit as a Spurs fan, because I've seen it with you guys. Ten Hag wins the cup, and you obviously, well, at that point you gave him a new contract, which was another issue in itself. Andrew's here for another 2 years, regardless. Unless they want to pay him off, and Daniel won't be too happy with that. But it's worrying me that we'll get this feel good factor like you guys got, and then all of a sudden the situation is still the same. You know what I mean? And then you've ended up buying De Ligt and Maserali, and now they're sort of stuck in a system that really is no good for Amorim in a lot of ways. That's not his players.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mazraoui's been one of the best players that we've had this season. I mean, he's had to adjust to loads of positions, and that's been quite fortunate. I mean, De Ligt's obviously had a few injury problems as well, so we haven't probably seen the best of him. But they bought Lenny Yoro, who was just bought, I guess, as like a prospect for anyone really, even though he cost a fortune. But he genuinely looks to me like the next coming of like Varane or something. Like, his ability on the ball at a centre back is incredible, and I think he'll be a big difference maker tomorrow. When I thought he was out, I was really concerned. So the fact he's come back, I think it's really, really promising. And Delo as well, which means we can slot Mazraoui into right centre back, which means we won't have to play Lindelof, which is an absolute blessing. Just reading the comment here, Jordan Book has just said Ryan Mason to Spurs, which I think is quite brilliant.
It's probably true as well. That's the sad thing about it.
Well,
We've got North London rivals agreeing on that one. I can't believe it.
I know, right? I mean, I think just obviously I've answered that question slightly there with regard to Ten Hag's contract. Just to give you a bit of a maybe negative plus positive. Obviously, it's positive if you win, but the negative is you will do what I did. You'll be going, give him another contract and to stay because you've won a trophy. I did it with Ten Hag. I really wanted him to do well. I thought he's done it. He's won the trophy now. He's won 2 in 2 years. Let's get behind him. And ultimately, he should have gone straight after that FA Cup. I mean, ultimately, he should. It wasn't working. We got a feel-good moment. We got these United players that seem to have this on and off tendency to play amazing one week and awful the next. They all got together in the dressing room and went, "Oh, come on in, let's win this one." They all put in 1,000,000% effort, and we got beat. And we beat City. So I don't expect us to have done. I really didn't, but it was a great game. Mainu and Garnacho were like really, really special in that game. But yeah, I mean, I personally think win, lose or draw, you should let Ange leave only because of his the way the season's gone. And had Amorim had a full pre-season and already had his own transfer window, I'd be saying the same about him. Win or lose, he should go. But he needs that bit of time. He needs that extra bit of a few more players of his own. And he needs a full pre-season because he's had to come in and play 2-3 games a week with all the cups and everything while trying to gel a team. And it's just not really worked to this stage. But if we get to January or so next year and he hasn't done anything better than this year, he's on borrowed time. And again, I don't blame him for that because, like John was saying then about Jose and Conte and all these top managers, Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, Ten Hag, Ruben Amorim and Ten Hag, like the hipster managers, if you like, the up-and-coming ones that everyone raves about. And then we've had the proven legends like Van Gaal and Mourinho, but proven winners. And they didn't really do much of us either. So I think there's much more problems at Man United than a manager. I wouldn't want to see another one sacked. But ultimately, if we can't get what we can get out of Ruben, then it's naturally going to happen, isn't it? He's going to be looked at. With regards to the Tottenham manager, when you asked Stu, you asked John who he would have. If it was me and I was Spurs, I'd try and get Jose back.
Now, John, how would you feel about that? Because that's a good one coming from Ryan right there.
Well, it'd be interesting for Daniel Levy. That's for sure. He would never. He wouldn't be able to bite the bullet for that one. I mean, I think Jose. We're the only club he's been to and not won anything. That should tell you enough. That's.
But he got sacked before he got his opportunity. You had a serial winner. You had a manager that wins trophies for fun, and you let him go.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, he didn't even get his opportunity. Very doubtful on that one. But I mean, this is what I'm saying. Whoever it is, I mean, I would take someone like Glasner right now. You know, I look at the work he does at Palace, but
Mm.
the problem is, it's like there's always a glass ceiling with Spurs. It's fine having these project managers that want to do the long term stuff, but you've really got to back them. You know, like it's no good just giving them bits and pieces and half baked stuff. We knew what we were going to get with Ange. I was a bit fearful of it before he came in. He's very much on the front foot. He's completely the opposite from Conte. It's a feel good thing.
Mm.
But the reality is, Stu, is that like over a whole season, it doesn't seem to work. I admire the fact that he wants to stick to this philosophy, and good on him. He's got here from a hard route, really. If you think about it, from the stuff in Japan and Australia, it's a hard way to get to the Premier League. So I think he's fantastic for that. But I just think over a whole season in the Premier League, it doesn't work unless you can change a little bit. And at the moment, he doesn't seem to want to.
You don't fancy Nuno back then, no?
Well, I'll take him now. I mean, look how well he's doing. He didn't get a fair shake either, if I'm honest. I mean, he went for he wasn't as bad as where we are now. Regardless of what fans say about the style of football, do we want to win something, or do we want to see pretty football? We've had both. We've had people like, I was willing with Conte to accept this boring football of defence every week. I came out of that stadium, even when we'd won, I was bored. But I thought, you know what, if he gets us a trophy, that's fine. I'll accept it. But even that didn't work, Stu. So here I am.
That's like Jose, isn't it, John? That's like Jose as well. When I said you sacked him too early, he would have grinded out probably a 1-0, most boring game in history, but won that trophy.
It's going down.
He knows how to win. That's the thing. He knows how to win, Jose. That's what you get him for. But we didn't use him.
Look at Conte back in Italy. Look at Conte back in Italy, though. I know it's going down to the wire between them and Inter, but it's looking like they're gonna take the league. I know Inter have got their eggs probably more so in the Champions League and winning that, of course, after losing to City 2 years ago. But Conte is solid, isn't he? As well, knows what he wants to do.
The problem is when you have Conte, though, it's the constant. The moaning when he doesn't get his money, doesn't get the players he wants, and then he has a hissy fit, and then the players then don't perform, the club suffers, and then he just walks out, and then he leaves you in a whole heap of shit. That's what he's done with pretty much every club he's been in when he hasn't got his own way.
Just not to make it about Brighton, but look at Herzler coming from St. Pauli, and look what he's managed to do with Brighton. All right, I know they've had money and stuff like that. They've had managers, they've had the players in. I think he's done fantastic this season as well. I think, coming from St. Pauli into Brighton, I didn't think he was going to do as well as he's done. He's very young as well. There are managers out there, aren't there, who aren't necessarily
But Brighton, Stu, is a great example of showing a really good structure of a football team.
Yeah.
Because I think you could have a whole host of managers going to that club, and because it's so run from the top, and they know what they're doing. And Tony Bloom always says, I only want top 17th every season. That's the point he's looking at, and it's realistic in a lot of ways. So anything above that is a bonus. And when and they know how to buy and they know how to sell, that's for sure. Chelsea are trying to learn it now on a bigger scale. They're trying to do everything they are in the wrong way. But when you've got a really good structure like that, that's where a top manager, like a young manager coming through, really works. Whereas a manager coming, if he'd have ended up at Tottenham, he'd have probably been out in 3 or 4 weeks. It would have been dreadful.
So totally different from what you're saying. Yeah, I get that. I totally get. What about, not to say he would leave Brentford? What about Thomas Frank coming to Spurs? Now, I know that could be a long shot if Ange was to go. What about Thomas Frank? Not to say he would leave Brentford. Would you have Thomas Frank?
I'd have Thomas Frank, yeah. I'd have Thomas. I've had a lot of the links we've had. There's not many I would say no to, but at the end of the day, as I keep saying, it just depends on the hierarchy up above him, because is he going to be properly backed, and are they going to buy into it, and do we know what we're getting this time? And that's why I'm quite realistic. That's we're not gonna. I can see Spurs having a few bad seasons, to be honest with you. Regardless of what happens tomorrow, I just think we're going to have to go through a transitional period, regardless. So, going to have to be somebody with a bit of grit, I'm afraid.
Do you think Son is coming to an end? That's a question I wanted to ask you before. And that's not me knocking him. What a superb player he's been for you. Do you think it is the age thing now? He's put a lot into the club, of course. What are your thoughts on Son?
Yeah, I have a real soft spot for Sonny because he's been. The thing is, at a time where the rest of the team should be carrying him, he's been carrying us for years on his back. You know, him and Kane for many, many years. Now his legs are not there as much. The whole team, I thought, would work around him a bit more, but they don't do it for him, unfortunately. They've extended another year on his deal. I don't know if that's just for a little bit of financial. The thing you've got to remember here, Stu, is we have a huge amount of Korean fan base from Son playing every week. It's crazy, Dan. It's amazing. So from a commercial standpoint, I mean, you'd probably argue he's probably a little bit more important than Harry Kane was at one point in that realm. But I do think if there's ever going to be a season, it could be this one, because we're not going to get a load of money from him. But if something was to crazily happen where a club wants to chip up, I do think I could see him going. I hope, and I do hope it's tomorrow, with all this, that I hope he actually leaves with a trophy. I don't want him to go like Harry Kane and have to go and win it somewhere else. I would like him to do it at Tottenham. He 100% deserves it, that guy. He's been great. I don't think he's a captain, but I think as a player, he's been fantastic.
Could you see him going into coaching at the club? I know that'd be an obvious thing to ask. Like, you look at Everton with Leighton Baines and Seamus Coleman. You know, it's inevitable.
I don't know. I don't see it at this point. If there is something there, I haven't seen it. But you never know. You never know. I think he's got. I still think he's got years
in the legs. He's got a few more years left, hasn't he?
I think somewhere else with a better team around him, he'd be fine. I think just at the moment with Tottenham, it's just we rely on him too much. Whenever the chips are down, everyone turns to Son to pull something out of the hat, and you can't do it every week. You know, it's just never going to happen.
Him and Kane were telepathic. Let's have it right. They were unbelievable. Yeah. They were unbelievable how good they were together. Chris, I want to bring you in. Like, obviously, anything to ask the lads before we go into predictions?
No, yeah, I was going to say, because obviously you're talking about, the board, aren't you? United obviously having their issues with the Glazers, and and John Daniel Levy. I don't know what you would call Daniel Levy. You know what I mean? He is frugal. He hides his money somewhere and steals off the poor. Obviously, as me and Stuart being Evertonians, we've also, we've gone through the board situations, and I think, it's quite common between the three clubs when things aren't going right upstairs. It can be catastrophic. I can't get the word out. Whatever.
Catastrophic.
Thank you. couldn't get out of my mouth. But yeah, it causes issues on the pitch for the players, the manager, the coaches, from all the way down to the under 18s, and it completely derailed us. You're only seeing now we're clawing ourselves back up, to the sunlight, and it's taken. I'm looking about 5 years, really, give or take, and we still, we've still got quite a while to go.
If I can jump in just quickly, Chris, and I do have a theory about why Ange is still there. There's been a lot of protests this season against Daniel Levy, because fans now, they're like, well, it can't be the manager. How many more managers we can have? So I think in a lot of ways, by keeping Ange there, it's trying to draw attention onto him more than Daniel Levy. And I do think that's been quite key to why Ange has been left in his place, because I think anyone else, they would have been sacked. But I don't think the fans are going to have it. I don't think there's going to be like that. You get the new manager in and everyone's buzzing again. I don't think that would have happened during the season. I think fans would still be on Daniel Levy's back a bit. So there is a hint of that for me, that it's coming to the end. And I think fans are starting to realise that, listen, since you've been here, we've only won one cup. And, he's done, listen, business, Daniel Levy is absolutely fantastic. No problems with that. He's going to go down in history. The stadium is magnificent, and I know you guys are moving into your new one. You're going to love it as well, like I did with this one. So I can't argue with things like that. But listen, I don't want to turn up to a theatre every week where there's everything else going well. We've got, if you want Beyonce concerts, come to Tottenham. If you want Formula One, come to Tottenham. If you want football, forget it. You come to the wrong place. Yeah, boxing, we'll host anything like that. They'll do well, but a football team, forget it. That's where we are at the moment.
Right. Anything to add on United? We'll just bring it into United again. Anything to add?
I just wanted to sort of put this between myself and John and just see if we could create a mixed 11 that we would choose tomorrow. If there's any players from United he would want in a Spurs 11, and I'll try and do the same for United 11. I think it could be quite an interesting quick take.
Well, are we using your system though? Because this is where it gets difficult, I reckon. Very good, Stu. Very
okay. Well, let's make it easy to start with.
Expenses, this, Stu.
Let's take it really easy to start with. I'll take your goalkeeper. I'll also take his mum, his child, whoever else you want, other than Onana. So we'll start there.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think I'll go with that one.
Playing a back five, I would want Pedro Porro, Van de Ven, Maguire, Yoro, and Dalot. Would you?
Well, I mean, it's, I don't know. Do you know what? Because Ndoggy hasn't been his best. He was great last season, but he's fallen off. He's been injured a lot. But in the Europa, he's been good. He's been consistent at least. But I would have said at one point Jed Spence was going to be fighting for that place, even though he's more of a right back. If we're playing a five, I would go with that. Because Romero for me is he can be very a bit like Bruno is for you. You never know where this guy's going to go with anything. But I'm cool with that. Yeah,
I just think Maguire is having a Europa League to cherish at the moment. He scored the winner.
Well, I'd worry about him coming up for those corners. That's for sure.
You need to worry about him playing number 9, mate, when Højlund balls it up.
That's what I'm worried about.
But yeah, and then in the midfield, I would want Casemiro, because obviously he's got the experience. I would then take, you can tell me which one you prefer, but Basuma and Sarr both have that crazy box-to-box energy. I want one of those two. I don't know who you think's better, but one of those two.
I would take Sarr.
Casemiro, Sarr, and Bruno Fernandes. I know you probably take Kulusevski or Maddison, but they're out, I believe, right?
Yeah, they're both out. So
is that definite? Because I keep hearing rumours that Maddison.
He's not going to be. Bergvall might be is a possibility, but
Kulusevski. I'm not saying Maddison's an elite player or anything like that, but Maddison, just from a Man United fan point of view, is a player that gives me nightmares. He always seems to turn up against us, always. So when he was out,
he's good in the big games. Yeah.
Yeah, when he was out, you don't wish injury on anybody, right? But when your club's trying to win something, you think, right, Maddison's gone. That gives us a bit more hope. And then we play like a weird formation where obviously we play 2 number 10s behind a striker. But I put Bruno in one of the number 10s. So the other number 10, without Kulusevski or Maddison, I would probably use for Amad Diallo. He plays there for Man United. We don't really have proper wingers now. It's a bit strange. We have wing backs. And then up front, without any shadow of doubt, Solanke, I'm not having Højlund anywhere near that team.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it'd have to be. I mean, I could try and make a case for Johnson, but he doesn't always turn up. The only good thing he does is turns up at the back post and gets goals. That's what he does. You don't see him from the whole. He has. You don't see him from most of the game. And then all of a sudden he's at the back post and he scores. He's scored a lot of goals this season, believe it or not. But
I'm just dreading Van de Ven picking it up on his own box and going on a journey. We've seen that story.
So am I as well, because there's no one at the back. So you and me both.
Fair play. I think that's it pretty even out. I think, to be honest.
I wouldn't have gone with anything any different, to be honest with you, because our players have just not been on it this season. I can't make a case for any difference for that.
Well, I thought we were going to be missing Amad Diallo, Dalot, Yoro, De Ligt, even Xerxes was definitely out. He's done a whole season apparently out on crutches a few weeks ago, and now he's playing. So I think he'll come off the bench. But last time we played you guys, I think I mentioned at the very beginning, our bench was like one experienced goalkeeper and the rest was like literally kids. Like if you looked at that bench, we had no one to affect the game. So even if we start with, say, Mount and Amad Diallo, you've got like Xerxes on the bench and you'll have Garnacho on the bench. Right? You'll have options and you'll have people who can come on and affect the game. And we didn't have that the last time we played. We only had to like rely on what we had on the pitch. And I think key substitutions could be really, really key to this. But yeah, I won't go into predictions. I know that's what you guys are going to talk about next.
Also, going into this, stats are there to be broken. Don't forget, United haven't beaten Spurs in 6, and they've lost the last 3. Now, John,
that
John,
don't matter.
I know you're going to.
This is the finals.
John,
I know exactly what will happen.
John,
with Tottenham.
You were waiting for me to
we
say
win
that.
when we. I was, and we win. But when it's really important, this is the problem. We don't turn up. That's half the problem. I think that counts for very little in the finals, and it's in Bilbao as well. So I don't read. I'm not going off that as a reason why we would win tonight. Not at all. I've seen it too many times, Stu.
I had to get it in there. I knew you'd poo-poo it. I knew you would, but yeah. Stats are there to be broken. Stats are stats, and it's a one-off game, and it's totally different. But I don't want to sit on the fence here on a prediction. But Chris, I'll let you throw your prediction in first.
You say sit on the fence, Stuart. Every time we do a game, you usually always sit on the fence.
No, I'll say you win. I'd say who's winning.
He's hiding behind one.
Chris,
I'm probably going to say. I'm probably go United. I'm going to go 2-1, but I'm going to say, and I'm sorry, lads, because every time I see a Premier League final in any Europa games, it's boring and dull. I think it's going to be a quite tight but dull 2-1 to United.
Ryan, I'm going to go with you first. I'll go last.
Okay, right. So my theory on this is both teams are quite expansive. They've got the wing backs. They're relatively open. I think obviously they've both conceded quite a fair few goals in the Premier League. I think Spurs have conceded quite a lot more than us, but they've scored quite a lot more than us. So you've got to look at it that way. I don't see a tight game. I actually see someone scoring relatively early and then scoring maybe another 2 and kind of running away with this. So for the sake of a Man United fan, I'm going with my heart. I say 3-1 United. But I say that will be the scoreline, whichever way it goes. I think whoever scores first and takes it, they're going to run with this. I don't think it's going to be 1-0 or 1-1 or 2-1. I think it's going to be quite a high-scoring affair. And I genuinely think whoever takes the initiative could really run away with this. But 3-1 United for me.
John, what you going with, mate? And you're going to be there in person tomorrow, soaking it all up whilst we're watching it on telly.
Yeah, well, obviously I'm going to back us. I'm going to go 3-2 Tottenham. I do think it'll be a crazy game. I'm expecting, because the thing is with defensive, like even if we're 3-4-0 up, Ange will always keep going forward. He doesn't know how to just sit on the game, unfortunately. So there'll always be I definitely feel we'll always concede. But it's just how many, because it's almost like you've got to outscore yourself from the other end. But I'm going to say 3-2 Tottenham. I'm gonna throw in Johnson for the last to get the winner. I think I just got something about it that's telling me Johnson tomorrow.
Can I stay in the Swiss Alps on this one, boys, and not make a prediction?
No, you can't. I want to hear it now. He's going to do a run.
United are betting favourite as well. I've noticed only slightly. I think.
I don't like all this because I don't. Because we haven't beat Spurs this season. We haven't beat Spurs this season, and yet we're betting favourites.
You're undefeated in the tournament as well. Don't forget.
Yeah, but again, we haven't played a Premier League team where we always bottle it. This season, the Premier League teams with a high intensity has been the problem. When you're playing in Europe, they give you that time on the ball. They give you Xerxes, your Brunos, time to turn, take a touch, find a pass, play out from the back with Euro. Like Spurs, say for example, Euro gets the ball and starts dribbling out from the back like he does, gets robbed by Johnson, and you're up against it straight away. So it's like you've got to play differently. When we're playing the foreign teams, it's so much easier for us. We just seem to have much more control, much more time on the ball. The Amarin system seems to be really good. And that system, I think, can be really good next season with the right players. At the moment, he's playing with too many players that don't suit his system.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go. Do you know what? I'm going to go with Spurs. I'm going Spurs. But no extra time. There's going to be no extra time. It's going to be done, with 90 minutes and then added time. I'm going to go 2-1. I'm going to go 2-1 Spurs. 2-1. I just fancy him to do it.
I don't think there'll be any extra time at all either.
No.
I think it'll be a 90-minute win.
It's a buzzkill in the two legs when you have a bloody extra time, and more so in the final, isn't it? They're all like very tentative and sitting back. So
I feel like if it goes to extra time, it would have been a tentative game, and I don't see that happening. But who knows? It might have to go to penalties. That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Oh,
with a niner in goal, if I can give you the award now, John, you might as well win the league. Win the cup.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember Vicario's not much better. So
he's far better than Niner.
He's had his moments, that's for sure.
Chris, anything to add before we close up, mate?
No, just good luck to you boys. I'd say hope the best teams wins, but I'm Evertonian, so I don't really care.
Chris, be honest.
But no, good luck to you. You got to win something from being, almost at the bottom of the league. So we'll wave from you and enjoy the game.
Absolutely. The game is also on Discovery Plus for free tomorrow as well. I found out about this today. You don't need to have a subscription. People were saying about YouTube, obviously that was the BT Sports Day, so they have all three finals on. So if you log into Discovery Plus, you can get the game. You don't have to pay or anything. So all them finals are free basically to air in the UK. So I thought that was fantastic that that's still a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a all Premier League final. Obviously, all the UK should be able to watch it, and always Arsenal and City and all those fans that ain't got any silverware, then come and watch someone try and win some.
It'll be good for the neutral, boys. It'll be good for the neutral tomorrow evening. Not so good for you two potentially. But for me and Chris, we can sit there and watch the game. And hopefully it will be an attacking game as well, as you said. And let's see how it goes tomorrow evening. John, safe journey. Obviously tomorrow as well, and have a great time. Right, enjoy it as well. Lads, thank you so much for coming on episode 59 for the Europa League preview. Chris, we'll be back next week, won't we, as well?
Yeah, obviously the end of the season wrap up on it we'll do next week. We'll look back at some memorable games and maybe predict for the following season in the summer.
Perfect. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on, and all the best for tomorrow evening.
Thanks
and
a lot,
we'll see you very, very soon for episode 60 of Football Then and Now.
Football Then and Now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us.